this is Cathynan Herbal ABC, and I'm Cathynan. I'm called that because that's what my oldest grandson likes to call me, which is relevant because this series, this ABC that I'm going to be doing, is because I'm putting a book together for a little legacy to my grandchildren. They've all learned a little bit, whether they wanted to or not, about herbs with their nanny, and actually have shown quite a lot of interest, and it's lovely to be able to pass on my little bit of knowledge. And that's what this is also about, is that I have got quite a lot of knowledge put together now, and I don't want it to go nowhere. So yeah, I'm making the book for my grandkids and sticking this out on YouTube, and we'll see what happens to it. Yeah, it's about sharing my love of herbs and my faith in some of the remedies that we'll be talking about. And it's a two-way thing. So please feel free to comment constructive criticism where you think that maybe I've got something wrong, want to talk about it, it's fine. And also any ideas extending our communal knowledge about each herb. And I've chosen this format, quite a simple format, so that I stay on track, because I will veer off all over the place. Quite passionate about my subject, and I can always think of something to say. So what I'm going to do is, it's going to not be, if anything, fast-paced about this whatsoever. The technology, although I'm getting some excellent help elsewhere, my knowledge, I hope, will improve during the series. Yeah, so please don't expect anything too flashy. It's not going to happen. Okay, so the format that I've taken is this. So first, every time I will tell you the herb and its name, and also any Latin names or traditional folk names, whatever that I know of. Especially as some of the folk names tell us 10 times more than the Latin names do. Well, that's not true. I mean, if your knowledge of Latin is there, of course Latin names tell you something, but the folk names tell you something that's really inherent in our history, and it's a lovely way to learn about the herbs, is to learn why they're called what they're called. Then the first thing I'll go into every time after the name is the cautions. So I will say, to start with, if you have anything serious wrong with you, of course consult a professional practitioner. My main philosophy about all these herbs is that if you keep gently looking after yourself every day, then the likelihood of you falling for some of the more serious diseases is lessened. And also, if you do fall, then your recovery time is, I think, quickened, made faster. And the whole process becomes a little bit easier. I've seen my friends drop, and my system is such that I can kind of get anything and it doesn't hit me too hard. I mean, if, you know, I could get berry and die tomorrow, and that would make me sound like a hypocrite. But on a general level, my health is pretty good, especially for my age, and I'm on no pharmaceuticals whatsoever. Okay, I will own up to the odd ibuprofen, and I've had a very rough winter, which I'll tell you more about because it is again relevant because of the herbs that I use to look after myself. And that's what this is all about as well, really, is we can look after ourselves. We don't need to go running to the doctor for everything. We were taught that we should. But now, as most of you realise, these things are letting us down. And also the pharmaceuticals that are used, quite often the side effects are far worse than the original problem. So I've got a million reasons why I respect herbs so much. I'm going to stop now because if I do it too long, the technology doesn't like it. So I'm going to come back in a second. So this is the second part of my general introduction to Cathynan's Herbal ABC. After the cautions, we'll go through the cautions quickly first. So I will go through these cautions at the beginning of every herb that I talk about, primarily just to get it over with, so that we can get on to all the good stuff. And also, if you are in the category of people that this herb wouldn't be particularly good for, you can switch off if you want to. So I'll tell you straight up. I mean, the most sensitive people usually with the herbs are pregnant women, and I will always tell you if it's slightly dangerous for a pregnant women to be using each herb. And apart from that, most of the herbs I use are not dangerous. They will be dangerous to some people just about the same way as almost anything else is. If that's the case, I will tell you. Okay, so then I'll go on to the actions of each herb and their medicinal uses and what they can help prevent and sometimes cure. Quite simple, but it'll take some explaining for each herb. Then we'll go on to preparation, and the preparation that I'm using mainly is the preparations that I use, and because my lifestyle is quite hectic usually, these preparations take no time at all, and they take no great medicinal knowledge. Quite often teas, sometimes an ointment, sometimes a tincture, nothing very complicated. This will change. I've only had my most recent gardens a few years. And as, of course, they grow more mature, I have more herbs to harvest. And so my ambitions on how to use those herbs are going to change. Basically pretty basic preparation. And now the recognition of each herb. So the herbs I'm using are all either easy to grow, easy to find, or very cheap to buy in this country. This was my premise when I first started collating 5 years ago. Started to collate the knowledge I got from the course that I did, which covered everything, Ayurvedic and Chinese, which is all wonderful. And I can certainly chat about that sort of thing. But I wanted this first alphabet anyway to be totally about stuff that you can do yourself and that involve very little money. Mainly because I learned about herbs because I was a single mum of 3 kids, because the doctors was a long way away, because I had become disillusioned completely with the pharmaceutical industry, especially in the face of what the treatments they were trying to give me for my children. And that was when I genned up and started looking at alternatives, as did many, 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 many of us. I certainly wasn't alone. But I've kept at it. And being quite extreme in nature, I wanted to delve into exactly how we could look after ourselves. And I'm kind of spent the rest of my life doing that, really, more or less. So after recognition, which will help you with planting, but also, of course, foraging, we'll go on to how to grow these herbs, most of which I will have some experience of. I've been a gardener quite a lot in my life. And again, most of them are going to be pretty easy to grow because they're largely native plants, because that's my premise in doing this. After that, I go to permaculture. This is a subject that's very dear to my heart, and we will be going into why every plant that we look at is not only good for us, but it's also good for the soil and the environment in general, and the wildlife and the bees and everything. Permaculture is very important to me, and it's going to be an interesting little section of this series, I think. Then I'm going to go into the phytochemicals, and I will stutter and stammer because it's all the science, and I do know this stuff, but it nevertheless trips me up quite a lot. Just so that you know which constituents of each herb is the active constituents that are going to cause an effect. After that, I go to the magic, the folklore of the plants. We have to respect the fact that these plants have been around for a long, long while, and people all over the world have got very similar, actually, stories about each herb. So we'll talk a little bit about that. And then we'll go in, at the very end, we'll go in and do a little tarot spread for the influence which each herb. Now, I started learning my herbalism from culpepper, and I would thoroughly recommend anybody who wants to study herbs to look at him. And he was very knowledgeable about the astrology of the herbs, which planet ruled which herb and that sort of thing. So I'll be going into that. And as I say, the tarot. So that's it. So that's what my Cathynan's Herbal ABC's basically going to look like. Hi everybody, back to my normal little corner again. Feel a bit more comfortable in here and a bit more awake, sitting up in my chair rather than on the sofa. Okay, so pumpkin is P letter, so P is for pumpkin with Cathynan's Herbal ABC. Pumpkin's Latin name is cucurbita. And cucurbitacins present in pumpkins is the first thing that we have to be aware of. So they're only toxic in wild pumpkins, really, wild pumpkins or squashes. But if anything tastes bitter, spit it out. Some squashes need to be kept over winter. One year, my daughter's father-in-law very kindly gave me a mass. I had a whole jungle of squashes growing. They're so easy, and pumpkins. And some of them tasted really bitter. I didn't try too many. I think I tried one or two and thought, no, that's it. But then by the time they'd overwintered, those same squashes were sweet and lovely. So they're designed almost to be kept over winter and then eaten just in the last days of winter before you're getting much in the spring outside, you can go to your little collection of pumpkins and squashes, and they're delicious, absolutely delicious. Makes all the difference in the world. And it's this cucurbitacins that they've got in them that makes them so bitter and are indeed poisonous, toxic if eaten to excess. So if anything tastes like that, don't eat it. I do remember that particular year throwing a stew out because it was just horrible. It takes quite a lot for me to throw food away. And they'll taste much better in spring. And that's the only thing really with the pumpkins. So don't eat wild ones. So there's no forage section in this. They've been domesticated for thousands of years. People have always looked after pumpkins. So you know, they're a domestic plant really. So a wild one, I don't even know if you'd find a wild one in this country. I think probably in America. So the preparation, the pumpkin seeds are tasty, roasted till crisp, maybe with a little soy sauce. I did some in my air fryer this week, and along with some sunflower seeds, and I did a little bit of soy, a little bit of chili in there. And just keep them in a jar and sprinkle them on anything lovely, in salads or on soup or whatever. Anything. I put them on everything once I've bothered to do them, then I'll put them on everything because I know how good they are. They can also be pureed. Your roasted seeds can be pureed and mixed with honey or agave syrup, any syrup you like really. I've got a taste for agave syrup, and it helped me get over sugar completely. And I'll admit I don't particularly know the environmental damage that agave syrup does. But I'm kind of sticking to my guns and going full on vegan as much as I can. I do these things as much as an experiment as anything. I'm not going to all of a sudden go on a carnivore diet as an experiment, but this end of it, I experiment until I find something that I do isn't doing me good or is environmentally ridiculous. And you have to take into consideration when you're judging things whether they're environmentally good or not. I mean, some say the growing of avocados kills more bees than pinching their baby's food does. Maybe it does, but to me, the common sense, I like to pretend the world is simpler sometimes than some of the science that we're given. I'm quite mistrustful because of who funds it. I'm not totally against scientific discoveries. I'm not even totally against vaccines. I just think you have to be careful, and you have to understand why we're getting the particular dialogue and paradigm that we're getting in our particular time. So yeah, any syrup you like, really. I mean, I'm working with the blackstrap molasses at the moment. So I'm looking after my iron intake at the moment, especially as we're in winter, and I do tend to suffer, and I'm trying to make that less so. I'm working on making myself tougher in some ways, but also trying to eat the foods that help me be tough at the same time. So I'm on blackstrap molasses, not really enjoying it. I keep hoping I'll get used to the taste, but my evening cacao experience isn't as pleasant as it was with a little bit of agave syrup, which I was using to make vanilla syrup. So I might go back to that. You can also chew 2 or 3 teaspoons of seeds daily. The seeds can also be made into tea by adding 2 or 3 teaspoonfuls of seeds per 1 cup of boiling water, and then leaving the mix to infuse for 10 minutes. So pretty much the same as making any tea. And of course the fruit pulp can be used to make pumpkin pie, ice cream, used as a vegetable. My mum was big on pumpkin. We got pumpkin pie, and we get pumpkin in all our stews, and pumpkin everywhere in the right season. And my grandparents on my father's side used to have a field full of pumpkins, which I used to adore as a child. It looked like the aliens had landed, you know, these. And it was, it's quite a normal sight these days, although I think some farms bring them in and just use the field to dish them back out, which is a bit of a cheat, but these days it is more usual to see. But my granddad's farm with the pumpkins everywhere was amazing. And then one year someone gave me some Japanese pumpkin seeds, and I grew about 30, and that year I spent hours hollowing them out and carving them, and my house was full inside and out of masses of pumpkins. And we'll go into that later when we talk about the plant magic. Okay, so we'll go on now to the actions. Okay, so you can puree seeds on their own as well, which make a great face mask for dryness or wrinkles, which obviously I should try one day. And I will. I'll try that. And the sap in the stalks is good for burns. The seeds are diuretic, so you can grind the seeds and mix them with water, milk or honey, agave syrup, whatever, for worms, as they are naturally anti-helmintic, which just means they're a good wormer. They may also reduce or even prevent enlargement of the prostate gland, and are generally a really beneficial tonic for men. So if you've got a man in your life, then feed him up with the pumpkin seeds. Pumpkins can also prevent or treat cystitis, minor kidney dysfunction, and particularly tapeworms. Pumpkins are very safe dewormer, much safer than some of the, and I guess this would be for your dog as well. I'm not sure about whether you'd get it into a cat, but I'm pretty sure most dogs would probably accept a bit of pumpkin if you mixed it up with what they usually eat. It may help in cases of nephritis, which is inflammation of the kidneys, or other urinary problems. It's a bladder tonic generally, and it's high in zinc, which is helpful in the early stages of prostate problems. The pulp can be made into a decoction to treat intestinal inflammation, or into a poultice or plaster for burns. So both the pureed seeds, no, the sap in the stalks, and the pulp are both really good for burns. And a poultice would involve placing the mashed and warmed pulp between 2 pieces of lint or similar material, and then taped or bandaged to the area. Poultices are lovely, really underestimated. The warmth going in to you is amazing. I'm mostly an expert on comfrey poultices. and they're fantastic. You can feel what they're doing. And I don't know with this poultice, with the mashed pulp, whether that should be, I kind of assumed that it should be heated up. The coffee root, you have to soften the root, which isn't the case with pumpkin. So maybe just a cold poultice would be better, especially if you're putting it onto a burn. Not entirely sure, but certainly worth a little bit of experimentation. Maybe if you know that you scald yourself on a kettle, or pick up a bit of wood that's too hot or something, and nothing drastic. But if you've got a little bit like that, and you happen to have some pumpkin around, it might be worth trying. Okay, we're going to come back with Recognise and Grow. So firstly, clarification of the difference between pumpkins and squash, which both share the same classification botanically. Generally, pumpkins have stems which are firmer, more rigid and pricklier, and more square than squash, the stems of which are usually rounder, softer and more flared at the bottom where it meets the fruit. Pumpkins are the fruit of the cucurbita, it's hard. Cucurbita, I think it's pronounced, as are squashes. And they usually weigh between 9 to 18 pounds, which is 4 to 8 kilograms, but they can weigh up to 75 pounds or 34 kilograms. And we've all seen these giant freaks of pumpkins. They can vary in shape from round to oblong, with a smooth and usually slightly ribbed skin. And they're often orange, yellow or a mix. But pumpkins can also be green, white, red or grey, as you'll have seen from my painting. You know, they come in all different shapes and sizes. They are angiosperm, which means they have both male and female flowers, and the females have a small ovary at the base of the petals, and the males bloom on a straight stalk, and a longer stalk. So this this one I would guess is a female, and maybe this one a male. Not sure. The flowers are usually also orange and brightly coloured and very short-lived. Some of them only live for a day. So grab them when they come, because your fruit will grow anyway after you take the flower. And you can, as we'll see later, they're pretty good to eat. They're so satisfying and easy to grow. They're one of the favourites with children for that very reason. And it's a nice thing to do after your Halloween pumpkin, you know, is to take the kids up the garden and explain to them that you're giving the pumpkin back to the earth, and it will repay you by giving you next year's pumpkins. Kids are clever, they understand these things, and imagine how delighted when next year, instead of going to the supermarket, they can just run up the garden and get their massive pumpkins that have grown. So all they ask for is a sunny spot, sheltered from cold winds. You can sow your seeds indoors from April to May and plant out between May and June. And you harvest them between September and obviously October. So indoors, and I would say if if you're living in a particularly rainy area, you might want to bring them in before the end of October, because there's a lot of rain in October, and you might lose them to mold. So I'd keep a close eye. So you can also sow them indoors. Oh yeah, if you sow them indoors, sow them in 3-inch pots and lay them sideways, and cover them with 1/2 inch of soil, and keep at a temperature of 18 to 21 degrees centigrade. If you want to sow directly into the soil, it's best to put 2 or 3 seeds in each hole to ensure success. The hole should be about 1 inch deep, and late May to early June is the usual time to sow outside, well after any problems with cold earth. It's got to be nice and warm, and even so it's best to cover them with a cloth or a bit of plastic, clear plastic bottle, until the seeds germinate, and then wait 2 or more weeks before you take the plastic or the cloth off, and then thin seeds to the strongest of so if you've planted 2 or 3 might come up. Keep it to the strongest one, and it's best if the soil is moisture retentive as well. Yeah, and as I said, no forage, because wild pumpkins are not particularly good for you. Okay, we're going to come back with the permaculture. So the permaculture of pumpkin. Almost all the pumpkin is edible. Certainly the bits that are above ground, the aerial parts as they call them. The young leaves can be lightly steamed and used as wraps. The shoots can be treated like any green vegetables, and the flowers can be battered and fried, or simply added as they are to salads or stir fries. The male flower on the long stalks are best for this. The seeds we've spoken about can be heated till crispy, and the skin can be added to soups or roasted, which I didn't know. So I've always discarded my pumpkin skin because it seems a bit thick. But I'll give it a go now. Maybe grate it and add it to soup and try roasting it. I'm far more casual about bunging things in to be roasted now I've got an air fryer. The pumpkin's versatility as food and medicine already earns its place in the permaculture garden, but there's so much more. The pumpkin is a climber, so it can be trained over a structure to create shade in the garden, or maybe over a chicken coop, for example. And it creates loads of foliage, which is great for this chop and drop method, or just simply as compost. The chop and drop method I've described in my other videos. You simply leave the roots in the ground and chop all the foliage down to soil level, and then maybe chop it again a little bit, tuck it under the earth, but basically you could just chop it and leave it. Pumpkin is, and because of the nature of the pumpkin, it's so water retentive, it will really compost down quickly, so it's not going to be unsightly particularly for very long. It will soon go down into your earth and be doing your earth masses of good. So pumpkin's also part of the Three Sisters Guild, which I've also talked about, and it also comprises maize and beans. So these three plants form a symbiotic relationship. The maize provides support for the beans when they start climbing and shade for the pumpkin seedlings. The pumpkins, or the squash, interchangeable really with this, have spiky leaves which can deter animals and shade the ground, which helps retain the moisture and stops the weeds, giving the beans and the maize a chance to grow. And then the beans fix nitrogen in the soil, which helps both the corn and pumpkins. And these guilds are, as a result, resilient and self-sustaining. The pumpkin also attracts bees and other pollinators. And I've got a picture which you will have seen at the beginning of this section, but this is a picture of the suggested Three Sisters Guild with 5 of each. So you've got 5 pumpkins around the outside, then 5 beans inside them, and then 5 corn plants inside them. Fairly big bit of land required for that. It'd be a nice thing to do if you have got the space one year. Certainly a nice experiment. Okay, so that's the permaculture. And we're racing through today, but the phytochemicals is quite long, so we'll spend a bit of time on them next. Okay, so the phytochemicals of the pumpkin. The main active ingredients in pumpkins are as follows: unsaturated fixed oils, including linoleic and oleic fatty acids, cucurbitacins, vitamins A and B, minerals calcium, iron, phosphorus and zinc, and then amino acids and phytosterols. So the unsaturated fixed oils makes up 30% of pumpkin's constituents. A fixed oil is a non-volatile oil. Remember, we looked at, well, those of you who've watched other videos, that we've looked at volatile oils. Usually you can tell when a plant has got volatile oils in it because it smells quite strong if you rub the leaves. These are non-volatile oil, and they can be of animal or, for our purposes, plant origin. Unsaturated describes fats with a high proportion of fatty acid molecules with at least one double bond. Unsaturated fats are considered healthier than saturated fats. Linoleic fatty acids are found mainly in oils such as grapeseed oil, sunflower oil, poppy seed oil, walnut oil, safflower oil, not so usual in this country, and sesame oil. It's also found in nuts and seeds such as Brazil nuts, English walnuts, sunflower seeds, sesame seeds, hemp seeds, and of course pumpkin seeds. Linoleic fatty acids benefit the brain, the heart, the skin, bone health and reproductive functions. Oleic fatty acids also occur mainly in oils, including olive oil, apricot oil, avocado oil, argan oil, sesame oil and sunflower oil. Has many benefits, including reducing heart disease, boosting mood, helping cognition and brain function, and also giving energy and stamina. They're anti-inflammatory, they help weight loss, and they prevent obesity. They improve insulin response and help in diabetes management. They improve neuron health and support nerve growth and repair. They are antioxidant and anti-aging. They're anti-aging because they're antioxidant. They protect against cancer, especially breast cancer, and they improve skin health. Cucurbitacins, still struggling with that word, are present in pumpkins, zucchinis, cucumbers, melons, squash, calabash and melon. They are anti-cancer, hydrating, beneficial to bone health and cardiovascular health, which means like your heart and your circulation. Vitamin A is found in leafy greens, sweet potatoes, carrots, winter squash and cantaloupe. It's beneficial to vision, especially night blindness or age-related deterioration. It protects against cancer and increases immunity. It helps prevent acne and benefits bone health. It supports healthy growth and reproduction. It regulates genes, which improves the ability to respond to environmental changes and to make different kinds of cells during development. It's an antioxidant. Vitamin B includes B2, which is riboflavin, found in mushrooms, B1, thiamine, in whole grains and hummus, B5, which is pantothenic acid, found in sunflower seeds and oats, B6 in avocado, B12 in Brussels sprouts, B9 is folate, which is in leafy greens and legumes. B vitamins are helpful for the heart and cardiovascular issues, the metabolism, dementia in the nervous system, fetal development and pregnancy, cognitive health and the brain. They're antioxidant and aid immunity. They are good for the skin and provide a barrier for the skin so the nasty stuff doesn't get in so easily. They help to form blood cells and prevent anemia. They prevent migraines and neurological problems, and they protect against mouth ulcers and protect oral health. Okay. And I think we've got time to carry on the next page of phytochemicals. So calcium's found in, so we're talking about the minerals now. Calcium is found in broccoli, rhubarb, kale, poppy seeds, spinach, chia seeds, edamame seeds, edamame beans, etc. Quite a lot of things have calcium in them. It's beneficial to bones and teeth, to muscle movement, to nerves and messaging in the body. So the nerves send messages. And calcium helps them. Calcium regulates blood pressure, helps blood clotting and promotes healthy teeth and gums. So iron is present in nuts, legumes, vegetables, especially kale and spinach, in tofu and in dried fruit, as well as, of course, pumpkins. It's important for hemoglobin and the transport of oxygen around the body, and iron is needed for muscle function and oxygenation. It helps prevent restless leg syndrome. So if you've got restless leg syndrome, which is really hard to say, get some good natural iron into you. It regulates body temperature and helps to maintain thermal balance. Iron, of course, prevents iron deficiency and prevents anemia because of that. And also many other chronic diseases are prevented by a good daily dose of iron. It's vital for female health. It is a neurotransmitter and supports brain and cognitive health. Iron helps to allay fatigue and tiredness. So phosphorus is found in sunflower and pumpkin seeds, in nuts, whole grains and legumes, especially lentils, also in peanut butter, garlic, potato, broccoli and dried fruits. It helps maintain strong bones, healthy digestion, and helps to detoxify the kidneys. It aids cognitive development and metabolizes protein. It improves cell repair and maintains hormonal balance. It encourages nutrient assimilation, so it helps all the good stuff work in your body. Zinc is found in nuts, especially cashews, in seeds and legumes, especially chickpeas, beans and lentils. It's in whole grains such as cereals, pasta, bread and oatmeal, also tofu and mushrooms. Zinc improves immunity and promotes fast wound healing. It allays age-related disease, can prevent acne and is anti-inflammatory. It helps prevent cancer and diabetes. Zinc protects the heart and aids weight loss. It helps maintain brain health and strong bones, and it's beneficial for vision. Amino acids are particularly high in pumpkins. They are also in tofu, quinoa, legumes, vegetables, nuts, seeds, whole grains, farro, wheat berries, spinach and peas. Amino acids are essential for cell structure and to produce energy. They're important for skin and hair, for mental health, anxiety and depression, for muscle and organ formation and development, or nerve cell protection, for immunity, for tissue repair and wound healing, for mood regulation and for collagen formation. Phytosterols can be found in sunflower seeds, soybeans, almond butter, pistachios, sage, basil, avocado, rice bran oil, macadamias, which are lovely nuts that you find in Mexico. Phytosterols can lower cholesterols, the LDLs, which are the low density lipoproteins. They can prevent cancer, protect the heart, manage blood sugar, increase immunity and decrease inflammation. So that's all about phytochemicals, and we'll come back with the plant magic. Okay, so the wonderfully magic pumpkin belongs to the element of water. The fruit has powers of protection, divination, banishing and prosperity. When we talk about banishing, not people, I don't banish people, but negative vibes, that sort of thing can be banished. So while the seeds have powers of fertility, abundance, wealth, love and good luck. This plant can protect the home from harmful spirits at any time, but particularly, of course, during Samhain, which is the Celtic word for Halloween. Pretty interchangeable, but not completely. And it's said that the veil between the living and the dead is at its thinnest. So traditionally, pumpkins and other oblate vegetables, which means kind of round with a flat top, were carved and lit in order to show ancestors the way to come and find us. So, we're closer to the Mexican celebration of the Day of the Dead than we think we are sometimes, and also to the more ancient Samhain as well, not more ancient than the Day of the Dead, but the more ancient than Halloween. We're closer to those things than we think a lot of the time. So the face on the pumpkin is to ward off evil. The pumpkin is said to strengthen spells and to clear the third eye. So it gives you clarification. It's also associated with the sacral chakra, perhaps because they're both orange. So your base chakra is red, and that goes into the orange sacral chakra. And it's located in the lower abdomen and regulates emotions, pleasure, creativity, sensuality, fertility and sexuality. In the fairy tale of Cinderella, the fairy godmother turns the pumpkin into a golden carriage, symbolising the potential for abundance and transformation for even the lowliest and most overlooked of us. And the tarot, I haven't found a tarot card for the pumpkin, but I have found an association with Hecate, who we've spoken about before, and I will use, I'll use my Hecate card when we do the tarot session for the pumpkin, and Hecate brings light to show the way, much like the lighted pumpkin, through the underworld, and she's the goddess of Samhain as well. The pumpkin is also a favourite food of Oshun, who is one of the Yoruba Orishas and a queen. And I came across the Orishas when I was in Cuba. And Oshun is beautiful and she's wealthy. And alongside Yemaya rules the waters, which element the pumpkin belongs to. So the people would offer pumpkin to Oshun to ask for her blessings in matters of love, motherhood and abundance, and for support in times of financial difficulty, for protection against diseases of the belly as well. So anything to do with your belly, you know, whether you're pregnant or diseased, look to the pumpkin and maybe give Oshun a bit of a thought at the same time. Okay, you're going to come back and do your tarot reading. Okay, so we're going to look at Stacey DeMarco's Deep, Dark and Dangerous Oracle, and look at Hecate, who we've seen is is associated with the pumpkin. And I'm just going to read about Hecate before we start. And then I'm going to be using the Santa Muerte decks because of the association with Hecate, the underworld, and Samhain, when the Halloween, and the Day of the Dead, when traditionally in this part of the world the pumpkin is used. And I love the fact that Santa Muerte herself here has a lovely pumpkin-like belly, like that was referred to with Oshun, the Yoruba Orisha goddess, Oshun, who Cubans and Africans ask for her blessing when they're pregnant or when they've got tummy troubles. So first of all, I'll read what Stacey DeMarco's book, The Deep, Dark and Dangerous, says about Hecate. So Hecate is the card of illumination, and you'll see it's written on the card here. And she's got this lovely, it's all, you know, this flaming oranges and reds that the pumpkin gives us. It's very nice with this Hecate. So, yeah, illumination. Seek and you shall find. Sometimes you need to travel through darkness to find the real treasure. Almost anything worth doing takes time. Move off the crossroads. It is time to make a considered decision. Keep your focus on your purpose. Do not wander off the path. Darkness, illumination. For a long time, the so-called dark goddesses got a bad rap. People thought if a goddess was of the dark or looked a certain way, i.e. scary, then they were evil or nasty. The Christianization of certain mythos twisted many stories as well, in particular those deities, usually female, who were perhaps magic makers, sorceresses, too independent or feisty, who were remade into evil and dangerous spirits. Stories of Circe, I think it's Circe, C-I-R-C-E, Kali, the Morrigan Le Fay and Medusa are examples. And so when we look at a complex figure such as Hecate, it is important to understand that paradoxically a dark deity can actually be an illuminator. When Persephone was taken by Hades into the underworld and Zeus and Demeter negotiated for her return, it was her friend, the goddess Hecate, who lit torches for her friend to guide her home. Persephone was allowed to return home for half the year, and she was guided through the darkness on her return by Hecate and her torches. From that time, Hecate became Persephone's guide and companion, Propolos, which means serving or attending, on her annual journey to and from the underworld. Similarly, in 340 BC, the greatest general of the age, Philip II of Macedon, was ready to complete the attack on the Byzantines and their allies, the Athenians, after a lengthy siege of the walls of Byzantium. It was a dark and wet, moonless night, and Philip thought this would be the perfect undercover fall for a final push and surprise attack on the city. His troops prepared for an assault on the city and were very confident of success. Happily for the Byzantines, the patroness of the city, Hecate, favoured nights such as this too, and was watching. As Philip's soldiers began forming their attack, Hecate lit her bright torches in the inky heavens. This unexpected bright light awoke all the watchdogs of the town, and they began to loudly bay and bark. The garrison was awoken, and they foiled Philip's attack. This was the turning point in the siege. To thank Hecate, the city erected a special statue to her, referred to as the Lampadiferos, I think it's pronounced, torchbearer. It was erected on a hill above the Bosphorus Sea to commemorate Hecate's defensive aid. Hecate literally carries a torch, even though she stands in the opaqueness at a crossroads or under a moonless night sky. Yes, she carries a torch when she is striding through the darkness of the deep underworld, yet she is actually lighting the way out for all of us. So a lot in common with the pumpkin, and the fact that we light the pumpkin to show the way out of the underworld. In the Samhain mythology, it was to encourage the ancestors to come back, much in the same way as the Mexican people do on the Day of the Dead. They'll surround again an orange. They surround the in the cemetery. They surround the graves of their family people with. It's absolutely beautiful with marigolds. And I would guess it's kind of the same reasoning. So I've shuffled these cards, the Santa Muerte pack. It's a deck by Fabio Listrani and published by Los Scarabeo. Okay, so I've already shuffled, just to ask for any illumination on the relationship between Hecate and the pumpkin, and Samhain and the Day of the Dead and Halloween. This illuminator of the Fool. So we've got the Fool. And the Fool certainly goes on a journey. Travel light on the journey of life. I suppose we could look at light in two different ways there. You know, Hecate's job is to light our way. And when the Fool is really that... the kind of journey that you don't really know where you're going, you don't really know why you're going, but you feel like you have to go. It's that kind of a journey, and it's a step into the darkness in a way, certainly a step into the unknown. So have we got any more for Hecate and the... Oh, one wanted to pop out there. The Hermit. The Hermit also carries this light. Just So you can see him a bit better. You see he carries, so the job of the hermit quite often is to go off and live on his own and bring the light to his own soul, and then be able to come back out into public and light the way for others. So very much similar to Hecate in a way. Let's find what they say about the hermit in the book. The hermit, take your time, leave the burdens behind. So like the fool, he travels light, and like Hecate, he carries the light. And I'm going to leave it there. I think that's quite a nice reading for pumpkin with all that torches and lights. Yeah, and next week it will be Q for quince.